GERE Network.com.
The following is a presentation of the GERE Radio Network.
Hey, this is April Hunter, and you are listening to the All Bets Are Off podcast with Robby Vegas.
What's up, rock soldiers, and thank you for joining me again for another episode of the All Bets Are Off podcast. I'm your host, as always, the rock star Robby Vegas, and back for the 1800th time, Chazz Stanley.
Nice shirt, bro.
Hey, thanks. What is it? Oh, Poison. Hey, you too.
Yeah.
Sebastian.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho, sure. Even though people think we're haters on him.
No, we're super tight with him and Sebastian Bach, actually.
What's up, Seabass?
So, before we get into the show, I do need to let you know that today's episode is presented by Sweat Connected. Sweat Connected is a transformative way to work out. Sweat Connected has a mission to help you feel your best. Each expert instructor brings their signature method directly to you, wherever you are in the world via Zoom. When you take a Sweat Connected class, you're able to interact with your instructor and the other participants in class just like you would be in a live studio experience. Whether you have been a group fitness participant for years or are newer, you will feel at home with Sweat Connected. So Sweat Connected is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off their class by going to sweatconnected.com and using the code POD. That's code POD at sweatconnected.com for 50% off your first class. Sweat Connected for all levels, all ages, all sizes, all humans. And I didn't mean payable on death.
I was going to say, man, you saw me look up on that one. If people want to know how hardcore we are drinking today. You've got yourself a water with a little bit of Mio.
Yes.
And
yes.
I've got myself an Earl Grey tea.
Well, I mean, we're on it.
This is metal, folks.
It doesn't get more rockstar than this.
This is metal. This is Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. How was your Halloween?
Halloween was pretty good. I stayed in and I watched a bunch of movies.
Yeah, I worked and watched the movies, so there we go.
There it is.
Getting old, folks.
So, the whole reason we're doing an episode on Survivor Series is because the first, how many years was that? 7 years of Survivor Series was a Thanksgiving tradition. Mm-hmm. The first 3 were on Thanksgiving Day. And the next 4 that followed were Thanksgiving Eve. Mm-hmm. So we're going to kind of focus on those, but overall, it's still a November tradition. So if we touch on some others, so be it.
This was the pay-per-view in that early era. Obviously not 87, but more like 91, 92, 93, 94. That the one pay-per-view a year my family ordered.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
I don't remember that.
Yeah, because I got to choose. Because when we got a little bit older, then I started getting WrestleManias. But when I was younger still, it was important to me for Survivor Series because there were so many people on the card.
Yes.
And back then, you had the Rumbles, yeah. But, back then, there wasn't so much TV. Raw wasn't out yet.
Yep.
It was hard to watch Sunday morning wrestling because I wanted to sleep in.
Yeah.
Or watch and then fight between that and X-Men on TV. So it was Survivor Series was always a tradition for me and my brother to get, and I picked it just because I could see everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody at the time was on the card, even people that, you never got to see. I remember being excited to see Coco Beware.
Yeah.
Because I was a kid and it was so many people on the card and I loved it. And so Survivor Series always held a place in my heart.
Yeah, I always remember loving Survivor Series because people would team up that you never thought you would see. And then their opponents also would be you never thought you would see some of these guys in the ring together in any kind of way. So it was really cool to see. At the time you would get the Rockers teaming up with the Ultimate Warrior or something and that's a huge deal to especially kids our age.
Yeah.
And
especially when you didn't have 9 hours of wrestling a week.
Yeah.
And just the simple fact of that, and it was something to, look forward to that day and the day before, because the day before is just as busy when your mom is cooking and all that stuff. I just remember getting away from helping her so I could go watch wrestling. And
well, if you remember too, there wasn't 12 pay-per-views either.
That's very true. So this was considered part of the Big Four.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it's quite is anymore.
I don't think so either.
I would say the Money in the Bank
would be the other big one.
Four now.
Well, the Big Four eventually became the Big Five also because you had the King of the Ring eventually.
Right, which they faded out.
Yes.
But, I just still, even, it's coming up in a couple weeks, we're not as pumped for it as we were SummerSlam.
Right.
Or Money in the Bank. So it's just, it would be cool if they figured out. I like what they're doing now.
Yeah.
It's different. I do especially since they do a good job lately of the brand split.
I think so too.
And so it's cool to see this once a year. So I'm looking more forward to it now than I have been in the past 3 or 4 years rather than I was the past 10 years before that.
Yeah.
So it gives it something a little more, but it just doesn't mean as much because the titles never change hands, and that's where it's at, right?
Right.
So, I don't know. That's what I like about it now.
Well, when Survivor Series first debuted, all you got were those elimination matches. There was nothing else on the card.
That's it.
And those matches were long.
Well, you would only get like 4 or 5 on a card.
Yes. So the first Survivor Series was in 1987, Thanksgiving Day. And
your first pay-per-view being alive.
That's right.
I think this was before the first SummerSlam.
Was it?
I think so.
I might have to look that up.
Yeah, so this might have been your first.
Let's do it really quick.
This might have been Robbie Vegas' first alive pay-per-view. Now, clearly he watched it because he's a mark.
You're right, SummerSlam was 88.
That's what I thought. So this was your first being alive pay-per-view.
That's right. Yep.
How's that feel?
I mean, it feels great. I watched it the other day, actually. But, so there was only 4 matches on this card. And I'm just real quick, the opening match was huge because it was Team Macho Man Randy Savage versus Team Honky Tonk Man. And that consisted of Brutus Beefcake, Jake the Snake, Jim Duggan, Randy Savage, and Ricky Steamboat with Miss Elizabeth.
Hall of Famers all around.
All around. And they defeated Dangerous Danny Davis, Harley Race, Hercules, the Honky Tonk Man, and Ron Bass. That match was 24 minutes long.
That just makes me laugh. Like, all those guys, Ron Bass. Yeah, I know. Like, what the hell is he doing there?
But listen, there was 4 matches, and it was 24 minutes, 20 minutes, 37 minutes, and 22 minutes. Yep. Like, those are long matches. Mm-hmm. But, I mean...
But not really at the same time, because now people expect, a 15 to 20-minute singles match.
That's true.
Right? So that's 4 on 4. So you watch them now, you think that they get rushed, basically.
I think... Especially the third match, though, 37 minutes for an elimination match like that. Yeah. That's a long match.
Is that the tag team match?
That was, the British Bulldogs, the Killer Bees.
Take a breath. Start over.
All right, hang on.
It was a 10-on-10 elimination match, so it was 5 tag teams against 5 tag teams.
Yes.
20 people.
Yes.
Go ahead. Do it.
All right, here we go. Ace Ventura style. The British Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, the Fabulous Rougeaus, Strike Force, the Young Stallions, and they defeated the Bolsheviks, Demolition, the Dream Team, the Hart Foundation, and the Islanders.
And probably 10 managers on the outside.
Oh, there was a bunch.
We had Bobby Heenan, Mr. Fuji, Jimmy Hart, Johnny Valiant, and Slick.
Yes.
So if you just think about it, like you get it. You know how wrestlers get paid. There is 25 people in that match. 26 with the referee.
Right.
Jesus.
Right.
How did anybody make any money off of that?
Yeah, I know. It makes you wonder. And do you know who the sole survivors were?
I don't. Go ahead and tell me.
The Killer Bees and the Young Stallions.
I do remember you. And why did that happen? I just watched it because they did the whole mask thing.
Oh,
where they put their masks on and switched them. Yeah. That's what happened. I just watched it the other day. Yeah. That's right.
Yep.
See, things like that don't happen anymore.
No, they don't. They don't.
Why don't the Usos pull that stuff?
They totally could.
They should.
They totally could. And again, this is in 1987. This is the first ever Survivor Series, and I think it's pretty star-studded. Just from we talked about 2 matches out of the 4, and how many Hall of Famers did we mention in there? I mean, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart are obviously the Hart Foundation. Axe and Smash are in there.
But they're
British
not in the
Bulldog. They're not in the Hall of Fame, but they're going to be.
Rumor has it because they're on the concussion lawsuit.
They are?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So
I did a couple shows with them. They're great guys.
Yeah, that's the rumor has it. But this whole pay-per-view wasn't supposed to be a repeating thing per se. All this was supposed to be was the second in the trilogy of matches of Hogan and Andre.
Yes.
So that's where it came from. You had the big match at Mania where Hogan won. This was their second tussle, and then the following February they had that big main event, which with the crossed referees and the twin referees. So that's what this was based around of, and they did fight a little, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll go through that one too. The Team Andre was Andre, Butch Reed, King Kong Bundy, One Man Gang, and Rick Rude. And they had Bobby Heenan and Slick at ringside.
That's a squad.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, that's a lot of dude.
That is a squad right there. But on the other side, there's a lot of muscle too.
Yeah, Bam Bam Bigelow, Don Morocco. That's a name you don't hear enough.
I love the original Rock. He was a cool dude.
I agree. Hulk Hogan, Ken Patera, and Paul Orndorff. Oh my God, Paul Orndorff is one of my favorites.
And Ken Patera legitimately was the world's strongest man.
Yes,
he really was. He was in prison for a while for some kind of McDonald's fight shooting incident. But that's kind of derailed his career. But guy was an Olympian. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about too. In 1987, the second match on the card was kind of groundbreaking because it was all female, and that's not something that you saw a lot of coming up in wrestling. You kind of started to see the end of the golden era, the birth of a new generation. They were more so managers, valets than wrestlers. So this was pretty cool to see an all-women's elimination
Well,
match.
kind of the people that stick out was obviously you had Sensational Sherry.
Yes.
Well, you never saw her wrestle too much.
Right.
And she was a fantastic wrestler.
At least not in the WWE.
Yeah, and she was a fantastic wrestler.
Yeah.
And then Rockin' Robin was on there, which is, what's his face's sister?
Whose sister?
I believe she's Jake the Snake's sister.
Is it really?
Yep.
And you're right.
And then, of course, the
half-brother.
Controversial goat of the Fabulous Moolah.
Yes, yes. Side note, too, because it just popped up on my screen. Jake is her half-brother. Her full brother, also a wrestler, was Sam Houston.
Yeah, that's because they were all related.
Yeah.
But we won't get into Fabulous Moolah. She's got her drama behind her, but hey, her title reign will never be beat.
No, it won't.
It was 36 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Something like that, so.
And I want to point out, too, the main event Sole Survivor was Andre the Giant.
Well.
Of course.
I mean,
of course.
Well, you got your trilogy.
Yes.
Hogan won that one. Andre won that one.
Right.
And then, I guess technically Andre won the third one.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
So Andre got the better of him.
Yeah.
Holy cow, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, because that was when he sold the belt to DiBiase and whatnot.
How can you beat that angle?
I know.
I mean, that was one of the great... We should do a show on that.
We can do a show on the whole Hogan-Andre feud.
I'm in because, that's something we actually weren't alive for. We were, but we weren't.
We weren't to the point where we were understanding.
Yeah. So now looking back at how beautiful it really was.
Yeah.
And how much and why WrestleMania 3 was so big because of those two.
Yes.
I'm in. Tell us you want to see it, folks.
Yeah, let us know. And by the way, you guys have really been growing our following on social media, and I really want to thank you for that. So anybody who isn't yet on Instagram and Twitter, ABAO Pod, and we're running polls and we're doing a lot of fun stuff. So get on there and check that out, because Chaz gets really upset when you don't.
I do. And then, if you guys don't get on there, I'm going to shave my beard. And you don't want to see that.
Yeah, and then, he's going to be future endeavored, and Mike Burns is going to be permanent, and it's going to be a whole thing.
How dare you? How dare you?
All right, we're moving on. 1988. We got the second Survivor Series, and still only 4 matches. Also on Thanksgiving Day.
The same venue.
Yes.
The Richfield Coliseum in Ohio. Not too far from where we live.
And also, too, again, we have a 10-on-10.
Oh, God.
So just like the previous year, we do have, and again, it's tag teams.
Too much.
And here's just a quick rundown. 4 matches. $17.50 for the first match. 42 minutes and 12 seconds for the second match.
That's too much.
And that's the 10-on-10. 30 minutes for the third match and 30 minutes for the fourth match.
And the third match is really the headliner.
Yes, the third match was definitely meant to be the headliner. I think it wasn't, though, because Hogan and Savage were in the main event on the same team. We got the Mega Powers teaming up there.
Right, true.
So that was a really big deal.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so the tag match is too much. First of all, 42 minutes, that's half the damn card.
Yeah, but you figure, too, though, we're used to seeing 3-hour pay-per-views. Even with the times that I just read, this is not a 3-hour pay-per-view.
That's what I'm saying.
This was an event.
Yeah.
You got the 4 matches, but I mean, why don't you read through the tag teams?
My turn?
Yeah.
You had the Powers of Pain,
Beat 'em.
the Rockers. Did you beat the Rockers?
No, I beat the Powers of Pain.
Okay. The Powers of Pain, the Rockers, the British Bulldogs, the Heart Foundation, the Young Stallions, and they defeated Demolition, the Brainbusters, the Bolsheviks, the Fabulous Rougeaus, and the Conquistadors.
I think that's a stacked lineup, but it was just a long match.
I mean, other than the Conquistadors.
Yeah. Right.
But, those were the tag teams at the time,
Yeah.
And nobody gives, at least WWF-wise, nobody gives the Brainbusters any love.
Yeah, they were really good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. The Revival was awesome back then. Sorry. Sorry, AEW listeners.
Man, you just lost 10% of your audience.
I know. But in all honesty, though, I do love both those tag teams, the Revival and the Brainbusters.
I mean, they're both awesome.
Funny story, though, yes, Powers of Pain, I did wrestle them, and they're probably 2 of not only the nicest guys, but they're so fucking smart. Their ring psychology is just off the charts.
Were they teachers?
Yes. I couldn't even, wrap my head around, and they were still so with it, and it was weird because I had originally met the Barbarian when I was 13.
Really?
Yeah. He signed a magazine cover for me, and I remember thinking he was so intimidating and scary. And then I walked into the venue that day for me to actually wrestle him, and I remember thinking he was so intimidating and scary.
And he looked at you and he goes, I remember you.
Yeah, I wish. But he ended up being a really cool guy, and we had a great match. But, I think this whole lineup that you just read is amazing. Like you said, except for the Conquistadors, that was what it was. But, everything else was great.
I mean, let's be fair, the Conquistadors, let's tell them who they were. It was Dos and Uno.
That's right. That's right.
Let's be fair. I remember a couple years ago, they did, before one of the before the Best in the World tournament, I believe it was, they had the Conquistadors in like a match to make it into that tournament, and it was Kurt Angle.
Well, before that, though, in the late 90s, or in the early 2000s, Edge and Christian were dressed up as the Conquistadors.
So it's a recurring thing that's kind of funny. Listen to this team on this here. Andre the Giant, Dino Bravo, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, Harley Race.
Jesus.
Do you want to mess with that team?
No, I don't.
It's not a team you want to.
And it's no surprise that they won their match. Read their opponents, though.
They were up against some bangers.
Oh,
man.
yeah, they were.
Jake Roberts, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Ken Patera, Scott Casey, and Tito Santana.
I don't remember much of Scott Casey.
No.
I know that I recognize the name, and I know that he was like a short-lived, like, flash in the pan, but that's all I remember.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you. And I've recently watched this and forgot about him already. So, I mean, that's how it was. And that wasn't even the main event match.
No. Take it.
Okay, well, I'll do you do the faces. Go ahead, because you're the face of the show. I'm the hero.
So it was Hercules, Hillbilly Jim, Coco Beware, Hulk Hogan, and Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth at ringside.
It's a good squad.
That's huge.
That's a good squad. Up against Akin.
Yes.
The Big Boss Man, Haku, Ted DiBiase, and the stronghold of the team, the Red Rooster.
Terry Taylor, man. Terry Taylor.
Why is he in there?
And they had 3 managers at ringside.
I would rather have Scott Casey in that match than Terry Taylor.
Hey, Terry Taylor is responsible for signing a lot of guys like that we ended up liking later on.
Later on. The cock of the walk, Terry Taylor.
But I even thought, I mean, the first match wasn't like stacked by any means, but like the Blue Blazer, Brutus Beefcake, and the Ultimate Warrior were on a team in the first match, which is kind of cool. Like you don't get to see stuff like that.
Yeah, if you think about it, I mean, that's the Warrior starting off a show in '88, and by next year that ain't happening anymore.
No.
Like, because this was his, because you had the Blazer, Beefcake, Jim Brunzell, Sam Houston, and the Warrior against Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah.
Dangerous Danny Davis, Bad News Brown. So, like, the heel side, Greg Valentine, and
Ron Bass.
Your boy Ron Bass.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the heel side,
Yeah. And the Sole Survivor was the Ultimate Warrior.
Of course, and that's who it should have been. But it feels like this era of wrestling, I feel it was just more about the heels.
Yeah.
Because, you had Hogan. And really, at this time, the Warrior was ascending. But it was just like, you had Hogan, and who do you remember from that era? Hogan, Macho. But then you remember Big Boss Man, Andre the Giant, Mr. Perfect, Ted DiBiase.
Rick
You
Rude.
remember the heels.
Yeah, Jake the Snake.
Those were the guys then. So, like that.
Well, let's point out, too, since you're talking about heels, the sole survivors of the tag team match were Warlord and Barbarian.
Yeah, and you know those guys pretty well.
Yeah.
I remember thinking a little time in the mid-90s that confusing, like, did Stone Cold used to be the Warlord?
You're not the first one I've heard say that.
Honestly.
You're not the first one I've heard say that.
That after the tag team.
Yeah.
You remember he came out with that little staff with the
Yes.
W and stuff. Looked just like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Black shorts, bald head.
And when you're that young,
Yeah.
you're like, wait a minute.
Then he went back, like, the internet wasn't a thing, and it was like, you want to look back and see, and then you look at the bodies, and you're like, nah.
Yeah. Best compliment I got was from the Powers of Pain, and they said, we're going to treat you like Shawn Michaels. We're going to do a Rockers thing. And I was like, okay.
And then he looked at you and said, you're Jannetty.
Yeah, right.
And Chris is the Shawn Michaels, right?
Yes, Chris was definitely the Shawn Michaels. Anyway.
You all right there?
I had some.
Was that a spit take?
Yes, I had some. By the way, the Mega Powers were the sole survivors in the main event.
There's another build that could be talked about.
Yeah, because, well, man, when that blew up, oh my God.
This was I think at the end of this match, if I'm not mistaken, it was either this or SummerSlam. But at the end of this match, we'll just say it happened. But either way, at one of the matches, they're celebrating. Hogan, or Macho puts Elizabeth on the shoulder, and Hogan, like, touches her butt.
Like, boosts her up, yeah.
And that's what sent Macho Man over the edge.
Yeah.
He talks about it in his promo at WrestleMania. Ooh, you got a little quick touch on Elizabeth. Yeah. Like, that's what he said. And that's, I mean, what a build.
And that is, to this day, one of the biggest WrestleMania matches that ever happened.
Oh.
That ever happened.
And they tried to rectify it the next year with Hogan Warrior, but that was 2 faces, and that doesn't do.
But equally an iconic match, but I think it was a bigger impact when Macho turned heel.
Yes, because Macho's heel character is so hard to repeat ever, just for the simple fact that he was so loved. And then he was so hated, but Elizabeth was so loved.
Yes, but she was still with him.
Yes, and it was absurd.
Yeah, and then he obviously went to Macho King, and then he had Sensational Sherry as Queen Sherry.
Which led to them getting back together, and people in the crowd crying.
Yes.
Not plants.
Yes.
Obviously, Well,
since we talked about all the other Soul Survivors, Mr. Perfect and Dino Bravo were the Soul Survivors of their team.
Dino Bravo, I was a fan of, man. Like, he could
passed
do a
away,
lot.
didn't
He got murdered.
That's what I thought.
He got murdered in his lounge chair watching a hockey game.
Get out of here.
That's pretty Canadian, first of all.
That is pretty Canadian.
There was a great documentary on him, the Dark Side of the Ring documentaries. They did one on him about it and how he was involved. Like, not even conspiracy. He was involved with, like, Canadian mafia with selling illegal cigarettes from reservations or something like that. Wow. And somebody put a hit out on him.
I did not know all that. That's wild.
It's a great documentary. You should check it out.
I will. Well, let's move on to Survivor Series 1989, Thanksgiving Day of 1989. The first Survivor Series that actually had a singles match.
What?
And then they also dropped the 5-on-5s and went 4-on-4 for all the matches following.
Much better.
Yeah, there were 6 matches on this card. Obviously, they're going to be shorter because there's less guys involved. And the very first match was Boris Zukov versus Paul Roma. And I always thought Paul Roma, to this day, I think he's underrated.
This was probably the dark match, first of all.
Probably.
Paul Roma was really good.
Yeah.
I think what killed him was he just didn't have like a next level.
He was what he was.
He was what he was. He couldn't be a main eventer. And if I kind of remember, didn't they try to throw him in the Horseman?
Yeah, actually.
And I just think that's not going to work. Like, he's just not that level. You know, like he's not a main star, but he could have been, right? Maybe he could have been, but
I think he could have been.
Can you think of like a Paul Roma hot promo? Right?
Exactly.
No, you just can't. Like,
but you know,
in the ring he was great.
Right.
But it was more than that.
And he had a great look.
Yeah.
He was super in shape.
More than that. Paul Roma was where he was, and then Rick Martel did it better.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what happened. You're right. You're
exactly
absolutely
what
right.
It was.
Yeah.
Rick Martel did it better.
After that match, when we get into the 4-on-4s here for this Survivor Series, now we're getting into where they were getting creative in naming the teams by the captains.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, and I loved this. I
awesome.
loved this.
Well, you do the faces, I'll do the heels.
All right. So I'm just assuming here that this is the face team because it makes sense. So the second match was the Dream Team, and of course the captain was Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty Rhodes, baby.
And then of course he had Brutus Beefcake, the Red Rooster, seeing that again, and Tito Santana, and I love Tito.
Tito was great.
Yeah.
This was after the split with him and Rick Martel.
Yes.
So
it had to.
Well, it had to be. Yeah, looking up because they were against the Enforcers, Big Boss Man, Bad News Brown, the model, well, not the model yet, but Rick Martel. Mm-hmm. And Honk Talk Man, greatest Intercontinental champion of all time. I'm bringing out my impressions today.
It's working.
Are they working?
We have to be entertaining here.
Because we suck.
By the way, I took a poll, and I asked if people wanted us to do this episode, and they voted yes.
Oh, okay.
So they're looking forward
to this. Did they know I was coming?
No, I just...
Good move. Smart move. Smart move. So if you hear some... I thought my Macho Man impression was pretty good.
That was pretty spot on.
By the way. Dusty Rhodes was okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, those are some great... I mean, if you notice, we had a switch, man. The Rooster was on the heel side last time.
Yes.
So we had a big face turn there.
To be honest with you, I actually do enjoy Terry Taylor's in-ring work. I do. I thought the Red Rooster was a stupid gimmick, but Terry Taylor as Terry Taylor can work. But, Vince always repackaged everybody back then, right?
Yeah, so. every single buddy. So you like the tailor-made man.
I do. And the sole survivors were Dusty Rhodes and Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
And that's fine. Beefcake was on a roll at this time.
Oh, yeah, he was, yeah.
Beefcake, a lot of people don't know this, he was the first defeat from Mr. Perfect.
Oh,
Mr. Perfect
was he really?
It was probably right before this at that WrestleMania.
I didn't even know
Mr.
that.
Perfect was like 2 years undefeated.
I knew he was undefeated. I didn't know who beat him, though.
The Beefer got him.
Well, then we go to the King's Court. And, well, actually, you take that side.
Okay, that's the heel side. So the King's Court, obviously we've got Randy Savage, Canadian Earthquake, Dino Bravo, and Greg Valentine, who never gets any credit.
I know.
He was when I look back and I watch these Survivor Series, these Royal Rumbles. That man was in every single one.
Yeah,
he was like everywhere from like the first WrestleMania he was on till like 95.
Yeah, the dude was
96.
Yeah,
every match, always. I remember him holding titles.
Yeah,
like he was great. So I just wanted to give him a little love there. But who did that heel faction go up against?
The 4x4s, led by Jim Duggan, Bret Hart, Rugged Ronnie Garvin, and Hercules.
Rugged Ronnie Garvin, former NWA World Champion.
Right.
Ugh, bad move.
But let that sink in, too, because Bret Hart is taking a backseat to Jim Duggan in 1989. So that goes to show you who was, the guys back then.
This is just the time that, he's breaking away from the anvil.
Yeah.
He's not up to his Intercontinental reigns yet.
Yep.
This was his mid-card time. Singles mid-card time.
Yeah.
We're about 2 years or so, 3 years away from his... No, probably 2 years from his Intercontinental and 3 years from him being the champ.
Yeah, we're getting there. So he's building up. And then, of course, as the card goes on, it gets more stacked. We got the Hulkamaniacs, Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake, Axe and Smash.
Great.
And who did they defeat?
They defeated my main man, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Your boys, the warlord and barbarian, and the greatest actor of all time, Zeus.
Debo. Oh, yeah. Zeus.
Yeah, sorry, Zeus. What's his name? Tiny Lister, something like that.
I don't know.
If you guys don't know Zeus,
look it up.
Yeah. He's an actor.
Tiny Lister, yeah.
Yeah, he was in that movie with Hogan, No Holds Barred, and they legitimately tried to turn him into a wrestler. But many of you will most know him as Debo.
Debo from Friday and Next Friday or whatever.
Yeah. So that's great. That's what I remember.
And that was called the $1 Million Team, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
of course it was. And Hogan, not the main event?
No, but we're going to get to who is.
Not yet, though, because there's another one. We've got the Rude Brood. Awesome. These names are fantastic.
They really are.
The Rude Brood. Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, Jacques and Raymond Rougeau, with the Genius and Jimmy Hart.
And then we go to the face side, who was Rowdy's Rowdies.
There you go.
Rowdy Piper, Jimmy Snuka, Bushwhacker Luke, and Bushwhacker Butch.
Relying a lot there on Roddy.
Yeah.
Well, no, we can't say that because Snuka was huge.
Well, the sole survivor of that match was Mr. Perfect.
Well, yeah.
Of course. Well, we also should mention, too, that Hogan was also the sole survivor of his match.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, duh.
The main event, though, and I know we're not spending a lot of time on this, but we have a lot of Survivor Series to cover in like an hour to an hour and a half. So, the Ultimate Warriors, which was the Ultimate Warrior, Jim Neidhart, Shawn Michaels, and Marty Jannetty. And if you get a chance, just go on YouTube and look up the promo of this team. Just look up the promo for the four of these guys.
Was there a lot of...
Just watch everybody else's faces. And just...
First of all, why the hell's Jim Neidhart part of this?
I don't know.
It just doesn't fit.
They broke up the Hart Foundation for this, and they put Brett with Jim Duggan's team. It was just because they were doing that wild card thing.
Yeah, I guess so. He doesn't fit. But look at this bangers that they're up against. Talk about a tough team. The Heenan family. Bobby Heenan, Andre the Giant, Haku, and Arn Anderson.
And don't sleep on Arn Anderson because he was the man.
Yeah, the enforcer.
Yeah.
And Haku, almost every wrestler says, like, this is the toughest guy in the world.
Yeah.
And obviously Andre the Giant. And then, Bobby Heenan was wrestling. But when you've got those three guys, you're good.
And let's think about this, too. Again, we have another just sole survivor in the Ultimate Warrior. So
this was his ascension. Wait, he was the champ now, right? Is this 90?
No, this is 89.
So this is his ascension.
But think about this, though, because...
Like Victor and Connor.
Right. The last three matches we talked about had a sole survivor. It was Hogan, Perfect, and Warrior. So just think about that time period where those are your three...
Those are the guys.
Sole survivors, yeah.
Savage is the only one missing, right?
Well, if we go back to his match, he was one of the survivors, but not a sole survivor.
Because if you think about who is the biggest heel at this point, it's probably not $1 Million Man anymore. It's Savage is on the downside now.
Well, he's the Macho King.
Yeah, but he's on the downside now. Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, you're right.
It is Mr. Perfect at this time. And who's Hogan feuding with? Probably Mr. Perfect.
Well, Savage's entire team survived.
Oh, okay.
In this one,
right?
So,
but this is on the downside of his heel run. His heel run was going up in '88, right? This is late '89. I think '89 to '90 was perfect because the headlining heel of WrestleMania didn't count. It was no headlining heel at WrestleMania, right?
You're right.
I think it was Mr. Perfect.
Well, now we're up to 1990, and
this is where I start to get into it.
Yeah, I was going to say this is where we're getting into like the golden era fading into the new generation.
To me, I was never a Hogan fan. Not saying I don't like Hogan, but like Warrior was my guy.
I was never a
got
Hogan
me
guy.
into because Warrior was the champ when I got into it.
See, I was a Macho Man guy.
And then this is that time that Warrior was the champ. Don't be acting like you got into wrestling in 1988. I don't want to hear it.
Oh, no. No, I wasn't 1 year old. Macho Man fan. But I remember my first action figures were Macho Man and Jake the Snake because those are my favorites.
Warrior was the first one I really remember loving. Just, he was a champ then, and his energy and his muscles, and this is his year.
Well, this in 1990 was different because the survivors all went on to compete again in the main event.
Awesome idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome idea to not continually do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
do it once
for
in
sure.
a while. They should have done it a couple other times.
Well,
too.
so now we're seeing 7 matches, so we're seeing the card increase. The first match, get this, Shane Douglas defeats Buddy Rose.
It's probably the dark match, but come on.
But think about
those names.
Yeah.
Those names in 1990.
And you think, okay, so in 1990, Buddy Rose has been around forever.
Yeah.
And Shane Douglas is like this hot young upstart that's coming in.
He's coming off of the dynamic dudes.
Right.
I don't even know the match because it's the dark match and it's not on there, but it's probably a good match.
Well, there's something very important that happened in 1990 that we have to talk about. The biggest debut in wrestling history to this day, in 1990, you see the birth of the gobbledygooker.
So that's the same pay-per-view as The Undertaker.
Yeah, and that's what these marks thought I was going to say.
Yeah, that's what they thought you were going to say. So a lot of people alleged that Undertaker was supposed to come out of the egg.
Undertaker thought Undertaker was
supposed to come out of the egg. That doesn't make sense. I don't think that was ever the plan.
I don't either. Do you know who the Gooker was?
I do know who the Gooker was.
Hit it.
It was, was it Chavo Guerrero Sr.?
Hector
Guerrero. I knew it was one of the Guerreros.
And it was a big joke, and it's still a big joke. And
they tried to have a Survivor Series mascot.
Yes.
For the kids.
And think about this, folks. If you don't know what we're talking about, the gobbledygooker, there was an egg, a giant egg, that they had on stage for weeks leading up to Survivor Series. And this was Thanksgiving Eve, by the way. This is when they started doing it the night before. So the day of Survivor Series, the egg hatches, and a giant turkey comes out. A guy in a turkey suit who's supposed to be a wrestler named the Gobbledygooker. And to this day, one of the funniest, most talked about moments in Survivor Series history.
Now, I don't know if they were going to make him a wrestler. They never said that. He was a wrestler.
Yeah, it was supposed to be...
like a mascot. Like the San Diego Chicken.
Yeah, right.
Kind of thing, right? Yeah. I remember he had a hard time getting in the ring.
Yeah.
With his thing on. And then I remember him do-si-doing with Mean Gene.
Yep.
Oh, the good old days.
Yep.
The good old
Mean
days.
Gene, wow.
So we talked about another debut who is celebrating his 30th anniversary.
This year,
because of this, and it's going to have a big cry fest probably, so I'm probably not going to watch. we should live stream it.
Yeah,
I'm not crying, you are. But let's talk about the matches.
Yeah, so first match was the Warriors. We had the Legion of Doom, Animal and Hawk, the Texas Tornado, and the Ultimate Warrior.
First of all, you had the Road Warriors, the Modern Day Warrior, and the Ultimate Warrior.
Yes.
That's why they were called the Warriors.
Oh, yeah. That was not an accident.
Why is he kicking off the show as champ?
Well, because he wins and goes to the main event.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. I was just thinking that.
And was also the sole survivor of this match.
Well, spoiler alert. We don't even know who he beat.
Tell us who he beat.
He beat the Perfect Team. Again, the main event heel of everything of Mr. Perfect, Axe, Crush, and Smash. All three demolitions.
Yeah, I think that's a killer match right there.
Those are all Hall of Famers, including Crush.
To kick off,
I think
your Survivor Series matches with that is a big deal.
I think everybody in this match is a Hall of Famer.
I agree.
I mean,
I'm a huge Texas Tornado fan.
Obviously the Road Warriors, the Ultimate Warriors in there, Perfect's in there, Demolition's not, but all three members should be in there, including Crush, Kona Crush,
Nation of Domination Crush, DOA Crush.
DOA Crush. But the biggest crush that I hated immensely was the Japanese Sympathizer Crush. When he went with Yoko, Crush was great.
Yeah,
Crush was great. So I think they should all be in the Hall of Fame. And then Heenan and Fuji on the outside too.
Of course,
great. I just wanted to point out how amazing that lineup was.
So we know that the Warrior went on to the main event. And
Thanks for spoiling.
That's okay. If you don't know from 1990,
now you know.
Now you know. So the next one, why don't you kick us off?
We got the $1 Million Team. I've heard that before. The Honky Tonk Man, Greg Valentine. That's when they were a tag team.
Yes,
Rhythm and Blues.
Rhythm and Blues.
Made Greg dye his hair black. He looked so uncomfortable. With Ted DiBiase and some dude that popped out of an egg. Oh, no, not him. No. It was The Undertaker's. The debut of my favorite wrestler of all time.
Yes, so, with Brother Love.
With Brother freaking Bruce Pritchard Love.
Yes, yeah.
Not Paul Bearer. But awesome. I mean, great debut for him. And look at the bangers he was up against.
Who do we got? We got the Dream Team. Bret Hart. So Bret Hart's the captain. And he's leading Dusty Rhodes, Coco Beware, and Jim Neidhart.
Again, well, maybe Coco doesn't fit.
But we got to talk about the survivors. Sole survivor, Ted DiBiase, goes on to the main event for the heel side. So this year, everything was heel versus face.
Yeah.
It wasn't always like that. They did mix it up sometimes.
Yeah.
But this year, specifically for this main event, that's how they were working it.
There's not much I can say about the match, but the simple fact who did Taker take out? Did he take out Dusty Rhodes?
He took out Dusty Rhodes, yes.
I mean, that's huge.
He also took out Coco Beware.
I mean, but
that's huge.
Dusty's the captain of that team.
I think it was Bret.
It's the Dream Team, bro.
Yeah, you're right.
It's Dusty Rhodes.
In my mind.
No, it was Dusty. And Dusty's huge, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Dusty was big.
That was a big guy, to take out. So he just took out Dusty.
Yeah, you're right.
And, what a debut. He's former NWA champ,
And nobody took Undertaker out. He got counted out.
Yeah. So that was an awesome debut. And, a lot of people shit on Dusty's WWF career. But in his, 2 WrestleManias, he wrestled Savage, coming off of, the biggest thing, and then Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
The big heel.
Yep.
The guy was second face, probably, or third face, probably.
I do want to point out that Ted DiBiase, being the sole survivor, did pin Bret Hart for that. So the last two were Bret and DiBiase, which was pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I've said it, and I'll say it again. If we ever do our rankings of the best heels of all time, Teddy's probably number one.
Yeah.
I think.
I agree. I totally agree. All right, so now we're going on... His son, yeah.
His son.
Yeah. Junior. We're going on to match 4, and I'm going to let you start this thing.
The Visionaries. Quick, off the top of your head, why are they called the Visionaries?
I couldn't even tell you.
Because this is coming off the match where Rick Martel blinded Jake the Snake with the arrogance perfume.
Yeah.
So it was a shot.
Gotcha.
So you got the Visionaries of Hercules, Paul Roma, Rick Martel, and the Warlord. Some big dudes in there.
And they defeat the Vipers, Jake the Snake, Jimmy Snuka, Marty Jannetty, and Shawn Michaels.
It was Randy Orton.
He was in the crowd.
Randy Orton would have been 10 at this point, probably.
Well, survivors of that match were Hercules, Paul Roma, Rick Martel, and the Warlord.
The whole team. Yikes.
Yeah,
Not looking good for the Warrior there.
No.
Maybe the Warrior could get some help.
Well, now, good segue.
Yeah.
The Hulkamaniacs with Big Boss Man, who turned face.
Yep.
Hulk Hogan, Jim Duggan, and Tugboat.
I don't know if that was my Tugboat impression.
It was close. Who did they defeat?
They were up against the natural disasters of the Barbarian, Dino Bravo, Earthquake, and Haku. He's not Canadian anymore, Earthquake.
No, he's not the Canadian Earthquake.
He gave up on that.
The only survivor was Hogan. Goes on to the main event to team with the Warrior.
That's a good squad to start with.
That is.
That's like the squad you rolled with on WrestleFest on the arcade game.
Right.
Not me, though. I rolled with Ultimate Warrior and Crush.
I used Warrior and Perfect.
I used Warrior and Crush or Sergeant Slaughter and Crush. I don't know.
Always Crush.
Always the Demolition
I kind of
Crush.
remember that.
I always loved Demolition Crush.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, let's move on. We got
the Alliance. I don't know which is the good team.
I don't know.
That's the good team. That's yours.
Is it? Butch, Luke, Nikolai Volkov, and Tito Santana.
You know what I say about that? Meh. Up against the Mercenaries, Boris Zukov, Sergeant Slaughter, Sato, and Tanaka. With Mr. Fuji and General Rondon. You know what I say about that? Meh.
Well, Tito Santana's a sole survivor.
Yeah. Why not Slaughter? This was Slaughter's ascension.
It was.
Slaughter's coming to be champ soon.
But that brings us to the main event, which ended up being 3-on-5, because we only had 3 faces move on. So it ended up being Hulk Hogan, Tito Santana, and the Ultimate Warrior.
Great 3 heavyweight champions.
But think about that, though. Tito is main eventing with Hogan and Warrior.
Well, it made sense to get...
Tito was over.
First of all, someone's got to take the bumps, bro.
That's true.
I mean, those other two guys ain't going to take the bumps.
Needed some heat.
Someone needed a heater in there to go and get thrown around a bit. So we can go out there, do the fish lips, hulk up, run around. But he was up against a squad of Hercules, Paul Roma, not the model, Rick Martel, Ted DiBiase, Warlord, and Virgil, and Slick.
Yeah, and think about that, too. Like, we talked about Paul Roma earlier being in the opening match. Now he's in the main event the next year.
Yep, that's true.
You know what I mean? So
That's
just
true.
let that sink in. But Tito was the only one eliminated on the face side. Hogan and Warrior survive.
Oh, wow. Shocking. Who was surprised? And mind you, it was a 9-minute match.
Yes.
That's almost a squash.
But also, too, everybody had already wrestled a full match.
Oh, stop. They're adults. They're professional athletes.
adults.
They're professional athletes. I don't want to hear it.
Just saying,
They're
that's
on
the reason.
steroids. They're in better shape than you.
But now, we're getting into 1991. Things were changing.
Times are a change.
Yeah, we're starting to see some different shit going on around here. So, first of all, there was actually 2 singles matches on this card. So we're seeing less. We're seeing less of the matches here.
This is a different, complete roster. I mean, Ric Flair made his way in at this point. It's totally different.
And if we're going that route, we're seeing that a year later, The Undertaker's already in the heavyweight title picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
1 year later.
Walking in with the championship, or
no? Yes.
Spoiler.
That's match 4. We didn't get there.
Sorry.
The opening match was probably again a dark match, but it was Chris Chavis.
I was going to say, honestly, who?
I don't fucking know. Versus Kato.
Who?
I
think
Orient
he's one
Express.
of the Japanese guys, right? Yeah.
But Ric Flair, you see in the first 4-on-4 Survivor Series match, and it was a long one. It was 23 minutes long. I
mean, he had a squad with him of Ric Flair, the Mountie, the Warlord, and Ted DiBiase. I'm sick of saying the Warlord. I mean,
he was a big part of everything, and they defeated Bret Hart, British Bulldog, Roddy Piper, and Virgil. And now we're seeing Virgil have matches and not just be a manager.
And this is the time, though, where Mr. Perfect was just an associate. He was on the outside for Ric Flair.
Yes.
Probably injury, but...
I'd also like to point out that Ted DiBiase DiBiase, the Mountie, Roddy Piper, Bret Hart, and Virgil were all disqualified from this match.
Oh, jeez.
The pinfalls were Ric Flair pinned the British Bulldog and Roddy Piper pinned the Warlord.
Oh.
Ric Flair was the sole survivor.
Of course, because he's the man.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a year he had, too, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, they buried him. Okay.
So, we got the basic shit going on here that we've been talking about for 4 pay-per-views now. I'm so excited to get to the Undertaker's match, so I'm like...
Yeah, we gotta go ahead, read your faces.
Yeah. So Jim Duggan, Sergeant Slaughter, Texas Tornado, and Tito Santana, they defeat who?
The Berserker, Colonel Mustafa, Hercules, and Skinner.
And I just want to point out that the entire face team survived.
Yeah, well...
First of all, I love... fucking Texas Tornado, I do.
You do.
Even when we were kids, I don't know what it was. He had such a short-lived WWF run, but I was all about the guy.
I had his toy.
Yeah, I know. I remember. I used to come to your house, and I would always want to play with that one.
It was mine.
Yeah, it was yours.
Back up
and
off.
you were a dick about it.
Yeah, that's mine. Get your hand off my carry.
He was the 4-inch Hasbro.
It's mine. Wait, what about 4 inches?
We get into match 4. The Undertaker now has Paul Bearer, not Brother Love, thank God. And he's going up against Hulk Hogan, the heavyweight champion. And this is a year after his debut.
1 year.
And he defeats Hulk Hogan for the heavyweight title.
Clean, right?
Ask Ric Flair.
Well, it was the big to-do of Ric Flair comes in. Right about this time, Ric Flair... this was Ric Flair's first pay-per-view, I believe. So right about this time is when he came in, after SummerSlam. Yeah, so right about this time he came in. At this point, he's running around with big gold still.
Yes.
He took it from WCW.
Saying that he is the real
world champion. And everyone's waiting for that Hogan and Flair match, and they're not getting it.
Yep.
But what do you get? You get Ric Flair coming to the ring, helping the Undertaker, sliding a chair in the ring, boom, Tombstone, 1, 2, 3. Hogan beat in the middle of the ring.
Yes.
How many times can you count on your hand that Hogan was beat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, at this point, 3?
Absolutely.
4?
That just shows you how quickly the Undertaker caught on.
Yeah.
1 year is not a lot.
Right.
A lot of guys don't reach that pinnacle.
And it's real, too. It's like the Warrior hit it big quickly, right? But people will be like, well, there's people like King Kong Bundy, but he didn't win.
Right.
He didn't win. Just because you wrestled Hogan in the main event doesn't mean anything. This guy took out Hogan.
Yeah.
For the first time, really, a heel took out Hogan because Warrior beat Hogan. Yep. Who was a face and kicked out, technically.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then Andre beat Hogan, but kicked out, technically. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And you can kick out of the Taker. Yes, it was not clean, but, it was big.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he helped make him with that.
And, the rest of this pay-per-view is not as big as that match.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just it is what it is, you see the Nasty Boys, you see Legion of Doom, you see the Rockers, and they're mainstays at this point, minus the Nasty Boys. You're starting to see them now.
All that matters at this time is Hogan, Ric Flair, Undertaker.
Yes, and they even did that segment on the funeral parlor with Hogan, whose hand got slammed in the...
Taker's.
Yeah.
Taker's.
Was that it?
And he was pulling the...
Maybe that wasn't that I'm thinking of then. I might be thinking of the Jake the Snake Macho Man thing.
Yeah, maybe you're thinking that, but this...
But there was a funeral parlor with Hogan and Flair.
Yeah, but this match here led to, 2 days later? No, 4 days later?
Tuesday in Texas.
Which Hogan got his win back.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
You get it, because the idea was to build to that Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan match that never happened, but then Hogan got stripped of the title, which leads you to Ric Flair winning the title. Fantastic.
So, fast forward a year to 92, everything is changing. There's only one 4-on-4 Survivor Series elimination match, and we have 9 matches on the card. And the first match is your boy Crush, defeating the Repo Man.
Smash?
Yeah.
The Battle of Demolition?
Battle of Demolition.
Oh, boy.
Let that sink in. And then we have a tag team match. You see guys like the Head Shrinkers coming in. They defeat High Energy, which was Coco Beware and Owen Hart. Big Boss Man then goes on to defeat Nails. Now we're seeing Tatanka. Tatanka takes out Rick Martel.
Bro, that Nails Big Boss Man feud was great.
It was the only memorable feud I could think of with Nails.
Well, yes, because he screwed himself.
Yeah, but that's what they brought him in for, was Boss Man originally.
But it was a great feud, and he was, convincing. Yeah. I know we talked to us about this last time, about how he used to look. Yeah. But, he was... I remembered him. And then, going back and watching the build-up to that and seeing, his promos, dude, he was convincing, man.
Yeah. So we see Tatanka defeat Rick Martel after that. Mr. Perfect and Randy Savage defeat Razor Ramon and Ric Flair by DQ.
What a great match that is.
Yes.
What a great...
Yes.
just... First
Let
of all...
it sink in.
Let it sink in. One of the only times in history Mr. Perfect was a face.
Yeah.
Because he was basically... I think he filled in that match for the Warrior.
Yes, it was. I think so too. It was supposed to be the Mega Maniac, Wait, was that what they were called?
The Ultimate Maniacs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's on the cover. He is on the cover.
Who is Warrior?
Warrior, yeah,
That's
and
what I
Savage
thought.
standing next to together. And then, because I remember, I remember now, they were having like an interview and he was still with Flair and then he turned on Flair in the interview and went face. And then it probably went right back to heel.
Well, and think about this too. Yeah, I remember when he was with Flair, they were a thing for a little bit. But now, as I'm reading through these names, the first like maybe 3.5 of the pay-per-views that we were talking about, you saw a lot of repeats. A lot of the same guys coming up and up and up. And now you're seeing things really change over.
Well, so many new people.
Yeah. Like the next match, Yokozuna with Mr. Fuji.
Start of a legend right there.
Defeats Virgil, and that had to be super
Another
difficult.
legend.
Yeah. And then we see the Nasty Boys again and the Natural Disasters take on Money Inc. And this is the only Survivor Series match on this card. And they defeat Money Inc., which was IRS, Ted DiBiase, and the Beverly Brothers. And the managers, of course, were The Genius and Jimmy Hart. But that's it. That was the only Survivor Series match.
And the next match right here, the second main event almost.
Yep.
Boom, the Taker's still there.
Yep, with Paul Bearer.
And a coffin match. Maybe the first casket match?
I think it is. And this is the one I kept talking about when we were talking about Undertaker before, where you could see he was like sanding the wood and like doing the promos and breathing like the cold air.
And if I remember, the casket and or coffin looked like Kamala, right?
It did.
Like it was like not look like him, but the
paintings on his stomach and chest,
Yeah, won that match.
That would be The Undertaker.
Okay. Well, he doesn't win a lot of his casket matches.
That's true.
To be fair.
No, I feel like he wins the casket matches, but he loses like everything. like he loses the Hell in the Cells. And, like,
That's true.
And then we see the Montreal. Oh no, sorry, not the Montreal Screwjob. The practice match for the Montreal Screwjob.
You're a little ahead. You're 5 years ahead of yourself.
Well, let's think about this though. So Bret Hart's the champion, and Shawn Michaels is going against Bret Hart for, I believe, the first time he's going for the heavyweight title.
Yeah, I mean, Shawn Michaels probably wasn't even in the picture at this point. It just. They know from their Intercontinental time, this is a good match.
Exactly.
I think the headlining match of this WrestleMania was the Undertaker match.
I think it was too, but I thoroughly enjoy the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart match.
They're all good.
Yeah, and it was almost 27 minutes long.
But actually, the headlining match is the Mr. Perfect and Savage match against Razor and Flair because that's on the poster.
That's true.
If you look on the poster, and it's Nails and Big Boss.
Yeah, that was the selling point.
It doesn't say Bret or Hogan.
You're right.
So, I mean, or Bret or Michael. So, that was the main event. Yeah. Right there.
You're right.
Right in the middle of the card. But, I mean, it's 5 years from now. What a difference the match is going to be.
And this match kind of flies under the radar. And
Bret's
it gets
probably
forgotten.
Recent champ, too.
He had to be.
Because
it was 92.
Well, because I know Flair lost it at Rumble. Or, I'm sorry, Flair lost it at Mania. Mm-hmm. But then that's in April, but won it back. Mm-hmm. And then lost it to Bret. So it's probably Bret's champ for a month, maybe, not even.
And they knew that him and Shawn would put on a great main event for pay-per-view. So that being said, we're moving on to 1993.
Now, this was my jam.
This was oh man.
This one was the one.
Start.
This one was the one I was most excited for.
Yeah?
Like, it was just because it was just... This match, I'm stumbling because I was so excited about this. Mm-hmm. I just remember running to the TV to watch this and getting ready for it. And do you remember the cover?
Yes, that's my favorite cover.
The cover's great. It's got Mr. Muscles, Lex Luger, the Steiner brothers, and Tatanka about ready to mess up with turkey. They got carving utensils. Yep. Apparently, there's an alternate cover right here.
I never saw that
of the heels.
Yeah, I never saw that one. I will tell you though, I used the Luger one that you were just talking about when I ran the poll to see if people wanted us to talk about it.
I just remember being all in on this one. Boston, Massachusetts. And yes, the main event, looking at it now, is kind of goofy looking. Mm-hmm. But the change helped.
Well, think about this too, is now we're seeing, remember how last time we were just saying there was only one Survivor Series match? We're back to 4.
Yeah. And this is another different generation. This was, I mean, how often is there a heel generation? This is Yoko is the man. Yoko is the man at this point.
Yeah.
And Luger is the next one, right? But he can't beat him.
I'd also like to point out that there is a match on here that's a crossover match because there was a tag team title match for the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Championship.
Oh, that's true.
So different stuff was going on.
Well, here's something that seems way too old to be here. Who's in the dark match?
Billy Gunn and the Brooklyn Brawlers.
Billy Gunn in 1993?
Yeah. Well, think about this, too.
That seems super
1993 was also the birth of Monday Night Raw.
Yes.
So now we're getting more build-up.
So Raw's going
things.
now.
Yeah.
Raw's hot right now. So Raw's going.
We're seeing the birth of these things.
Again, this, like I told you, I was uber excited for this. That probably has something to do with Raw was on at this point. And I could know every Monday night, 9 o'clock, Channel 35, unless there's a goddamn dog show on.
That's right.
There's wrestling.
Actually, it was at 8 o'clock at first.
Okay, either way, as long as there's no dog show.
Yeah, right.
We're good.
And look at the first match, too. The 1-2-3 Kid, name we haven't seen yet.
Nope.
Marty Jannetty, Macho Man, and Razor Ramon are one team.
Yep.
That's cool.
It is cool, and the team they're up against is cool.
Yeah.
Adam Baum, who I thought had potential.
Oh, me too.
Looking back, the guy looks great. Looks like $1 million. I don't know why it didn't happen. Some guy named Diesel. Erwin Eierscheister, who I'm a big fan of as well. And Rick Martel, who I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
So that's a great heel squad right there. And then, 1, 2, 3 Kid, had he beat Razor at this point?
You know what?
Who knows?
Not sure.
Because he was like a jobber.
They may have been
until he beat Razor.
He may have beat Razor at this point, but I couldn't.
Because he was always a jobber.
Yeah.
I remember him losing all the time.
1, 2, 3 Kid and Marty Jannetty were the survivors.
There you go. So he probably beat him.
Also became a tag team, by the way. I believe they might have even been tag team champions. I can't remember.
That's one thing the Rockers can't technically say.
Yeah, that's true. Look at the next match, though.
It's because he didn't. That's because he upgraded from Shawn Michaels to Sean Waltman.
Yeah, that's right. Look at the next match, though. The Hart family. You got Brett, Bruce, Keith, and Owen.
Bro. I'm so into this.
But they defeat again. You start another Survivor Series match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
But okay. First of all, let's give it a little background. It wasn't supposed to be Shawn Michaels.
I didn't know that.
Okay, because I remember this.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah,
it was supposed to be Jerry Lawler.
Yes,
and Jerry Lawler got in trouble for an alleged sexual abuse case. I don't think it was persecuted or everything, but it just kind of came out at that time. So they
and it became Shawn and the Knights because it was supposed to be the Knights because Jerry Lawler was the king,
right? And the Knights. I gotta actually look them up real quick because they're actually people you know. And I remember, so the Blue Knight was Greg Valentine, and the Red Knight was Barry Horowitz, and names you know, right?
Yep.
And the Black Knight ended up being a wrestler named Jeff Gaylord, but it was supposed to be Terry Funk. And that day of Terry Funk left Vince a note that said, "Vince, I need to leave. My horse is sick. Terry." And got out.
Wow.
So I thought that was a great little story.
And they used to do stuff like that, too, where, you would just get random guys wearing masks, and it would be a thing. And nobody thought anything of it. Right. Nobody was like, this is stupid, or we just watched, you know?
So the Hart family, we didn't put enough into that. It was Bret Hart, Bruce Hart, Keith Hart. We know Bret and Owen. Bruce and Keith never get love, really, and they were professional wrestlers.
Yeah.
In Canada.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell Keith is the older brother, I think.
Yeah.
He just didn't fit. But the other guys look great.
Yeah.
Keith had that mustache. But this was the start of
one of the best feuds ever.
In the history of anything. And we gushed about this on the Owen Hart tribute last year. I remember about it because this is that start where who won this match? Who are the survivors?
Everybody but Owen on the Hart side.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
And Owen...
And do you remember how? Bret hits the ropes, knocks Owens off.
And,
or I'm sorry, the other way around.
Yep.
Owen hits the ropes, knocks Bret down,
yep.
and pays attention because he hurt his brother, gets pinned.
Gets the surprise roll-up. Way before its time. Now that's like the most devastating move in wrestling history.
For sure.
The surprise roll-up.
For sure.
But Owen, again, ahead of his time at that point. But, that was the start of that turn. He acted like such a baby.
Yep.
I told you, late 93 Owen to 95 Owen's one of the best wrestlers ever.
Yep.
History of wrestling. And what a beginning of this. This is a great match.
Oh, yeah.
Even
absolutely.
the guys in the mask I just told you. Greg Valentine, Barry Horowitz, he's a good wrestler. Obviously Shawn Michaels, and I don't know who the other guy is, but Terry Funk would have been great. You would have knew it was Terry Funk.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I never knew who the other guys were, so that's cool.
Yeah, that was a story that I heard Bruce Pritchard tell about how he left a note that said, "My horse is sick."
Well, again, it's just building up to this Bret and Shawn Michaels eventual blow-off. It's coming closer now. We're in 1993. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I mean, they battled forever.
Yeah.
Because Bret's not champ right now.
Right.
So they're probably still going in and at it for the Intercontinental.
Well, they always did the Intercontinental. There was always the Rockers and the Hart Foundation, and then eventually it turns into the heavyweight. Yeah. And we'll talk about that Survivor Series a little bit. But again, like you said, this kicked off one of the greatest feuds of all time. So this Survivor Series was extremely important.
I told you,
for
I
a lot
love
of reasons.
This.
Yeah.
And we didn't even get into the next yet. The next match has two very underrated tag teams that we don't know about. It's for the Smoky Mountain Tag Team Championship. Mm-hmm. We got the Heavenly Bodies, Jimmy Del Rey and Tom Pritchard. They're awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming out with Jim Cornette. They're all. Did I know these teams? No. But did I boo the shit out of the Heavenly Bodies because Jim Cornette was so good at his job? Absolutely.
Yes, I agree.
And Rock and Roll Express, I didn't know anything about them, but awesome.
I mean, when I was 6. These guys were coming in from Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which is unheard of to do some... Yeah, and they're doing cross promotions here, and that's unheard of, and you're starting to see it here and there. WWE's doing it, and I could still watch this match. This is a great match.
Yeah, Rock and Roll Express was completely blind to me. A lot of that Southern stuff was. Why? Because I live in the North.
Yeah, right.
So, it wasn't like that.
Well, you couldn't jump on YouTube, and you couldn't couldn't stream and you couldn't, you know what I mean?
Well, looking back, Rock and Roll Express is in the Hall of Fame now, and they deserve to be. And those guys are over as hell.
AEW alum.
That's true. They did, and they were doing. I think it was Ricky Morton. Is that the blonde one?
Ricky Morton is the blonde one.
Yeah, Ricky Morton had an NWA title match against Nick Aldis last year.
Yes,
it was awesome. It was awesome to see that.
They've honestly wrestled for every major company ever.
Yeah. And I love Nick Aldis, big Nick Aldis mark, and that was a great match. He literally, it had that element. Once in a while, I was like, no, there's no way he's gonna win this.
Well, listen, we go on to the next match, which is the Bushwhackers. I've done two shows with Bushwhacker Luke. That dude has a trip.
Is he?
Yeah.
Are they sick? They're not old and sick.
I mean, they're old.
I heard one of them was sick. I don't know if
I think Butch is, but I don't know. But then you see Men on a Mission. We're seeing Mabel and Mo with Oscar. And they defeat Bam Bam Bigelow, Bastion Booger, and the Head Shrinkers with Afa and Luna Vachon.
How much Fatu has been in the WWF? Like, they love that guy. Rikishi. Yeah. They love him. They had him forever.
Absolutely.
So, like, they changed his gimmick over and over, but they just kept him. Mm-hmm. They love that guy.
Now, if I remember correctly, I might be wrong about this, but didn't everybody on the Bushwhackers and the Men on the Mission, they were all in Doink makeup?
That was a different one.
Are you sure?
That was a match with Doink.
I think there was something with this match.
It might be right. I'm not
going to look it up
positive.
really quick.
But you also forgot to mention that the heel managers are Roman Reigns' dad.
Yes.
And Luna Vachon, who's highly underrated.
This was the Four Doinks.
So it was the Four Doinks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Doink must have, I don't know if he was
maybe
their
got injured
manager or got hurt or something.
It doesn't say. It says with Oscar.
Yeah.
But he was feuding with Bam Bam Bigelow. I bet you that had something to do with it.
Yeah, I remember that too, because it spilled into WrestleMania.
Well, I just wanted to say that Luna Vachon's a very underrated lady. Too.
Agreed. And now we're getting into your main event, bro.
Bro, this meant so much to me. Like, I don't know why.
Take it.
Well, it's got the All-Americans, but I'll do the foreign fanatics first.
Okay.
So, first of all, on the picture's wrong. So it's showing the bad guys, and on the picture it shows the Quebecers, Yokozuna, and Ludwig Borga.
Yeah.
Against Tatanka, the Steiners, and Lex Luger. But that's not who are in the match.
No.
In the match, on my side, we've got Crush and Jacques with Ludwig Borga and Yokozuna. Who Ludwig Borga literally sucked now looking back at, but I hated him so goddamn much. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just hated him so goddamn much in like a real passionate hate, which is what you want.
Yeah.
So right. I don't know how he worked. With the managers of Jim Cornette, Johnny Polo, and Mr. Fuji. Against the All-Americans of Lex Luger, the Steiner brothers, and not Tatanka.
Not Tatanka.
Because of the injury or something?
It must have been.
And I remember on Raw, them pleading their case for another partner. They need a partner specifically to take out, because yes, you got Yoko the champ, and then they really needed a partner to take out Ludwig Borga, because he was a big deal for some reason at this point. And who did they appeal to, Robbie Vegas?
The Undertaker.
The Undertaker. Heel 2 years straight.
Yeah.
Heel for 2 years right now.
Yeah.
And they played the card of, this isn't about good or bad or whatever, this is about America.
That's right.
And he's from Death Valley, which is in America, if you didn't know.
And The Undertaker was a main part of this team, and he battled to a double count with Yokozuna.
Who is the champ.
Yeah.
And if you remember, and I know you remember, how did he accept their offer? Well, how did he tell them? Did he say, I'm with you, brother?
No.
No, he didn't say, I'm with you, brother. Did he say, rest in peace, foreign fanatics? No. He unbuttoned his trench coat. Showed his dick. No, he unbuttoned his trench coat. And underneath his trench coat was an American flag. Because he is the man of America.
And he didn't have to say a word.
Didn't have to say a word.
And by the way, Johnny Polo is Raven.
Yes, Johnny Polo is Raven. But from that moment on, Undertaker basically was loved by people started to love him anyway at this point. But that was his face turn.
Yeah, that was his face turn.
And that was it. That's all he needed.
Well, if we're sticking with the Thanksgiving years, we have one more.
And by the way, it's a good match, that match.
Oh, it was a good match, yeah.
That maybe just because that one means so much to me.
No.
But like, it was a really
that was
good
match. I thought that whole pay-per-view was good.
Yeah.
I still think that whole pay-per-view was good. And now 1994...
And look who's on the cover of 1994.
The Undertaker.
The Undertaker.
And this was a big deal, obviously, with The Undertaker being on the cover, because he was in a casket match against Yokozuna, and the special guest referee was Chuck Norris.
So, I mean, that's good for Undertaker.
Yeah.
I mean, that's who you want on your side.
Yeah. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups, he pushes the earth down.
That's what he does. Chuck Norris has clogged a toilet from taking a piss.
I'm going to tell you this right now. The opening match, Bob Holly defeated Quang.
Who is?
Savio Vega.
Savio Vega.
Again, we're getting more into that new generation where you're starting to see some familiar names, but a lot of new ones, too.
Was this even... This says Bob Holly. What happened to Sparky Plug?
It should say that. At this time, it should say that.
Sparky Plug.
Yeah.
We're going back to 5-on-5 for the next match.
We are.
Actually, it goes in and out. There's a 5-on-5, a 4-on-4, and a 5-on-5.
Yes. Yep. So, the bad guys. We got the 1-2-3 kid, the British Bulldog, Fatu, Razor Ramon, and... How do you say that? Sion?
Who the hell was that?
I don't remember that person. I'll be honest with you.
Is the Barbarian.
Oh, he just changed his name.
He must have changed his name, unless they just put it in there. I knew that name.
Let's just say the Barbarian.
The Barbarian.
Yeah.
Maybe he did change his name.
Maybe.
I don't even remember.
I don't remember him having a different
recently.
name.
Up against the Teamsters of Diesel, Jeff Jarrett, Jim Neidhart, Owen Hart, and Shawn Michaels. And honestly, I don't know who's the heel team.
I don't either. That's a stacked card.
Diesel's the heel team.
But if I remember correctly, wasn't there heels on both sides? It was a wild card match because Bulldog and Owen were a tag team, and they're on separate teams here.
Oh yeah, maybe. But Bulldog was good. Owen turned heel at this point.
I don't know. I remember a match where they were a team but on opposite. It was a Survivor Series.
You could be right.
It may have happened 2 years in a row. I don't know because '95 also was a thing.
I mean, we could have did research, but why?
Why? The sole survivor was Razor Ramon. That's all that matters.
That's fun. Especially then. Again, with the managers of Roman Reigns' father and Lou Albano.
Yes. And then, get this. The third match was the Royal Family versus Clowns Are Us. And it was Jerry Lawler and Doink were the captains. And they each had 3 midgets. And Lawler had Cheesy, Queasy, and Sleazy. And Doink had Dink, Pink, and Wink.
Dink was my homie.
Dink was around for a while. He wasn't a one-shot guy.
Yeah, Dink was great. Dink had a few shots. Like, he made it. First of all, just a quick question about Afa. Why does he bring out Fatu? Is that his brother, or is that his son? Is Rikishi...
I think it's his son.
No, I think it's his brother.
Is it?
Because...
I'm going to look.
It's so confusing, right?
It is.
But Afa was Roman Reigns' dad. And I don't think Roman Reigns and Rikishi are brothers, right?
No, they're not.
That's what I'm saying. So if Afa's Roman Reigns...
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So Afa must be Rikishi's uncle.
It's a weird family tree.
Because Rikishi's sons are the Usos and their cousins.
Roman Reigns is the tribal chief.
I've heard. Until somebody makes a return.
I'm not going to get into it.
Oh, it's happening. It is happening.
But...
Alpha's coming back.
This next match... Oh, you're right about this, because this next match... You're right.
Okay, thank you.
But Bob Backlund with Owen Hart defeats Bret Hart with the British Bulldog. So you're right.
People hate on this match.
This match was great.
It was fantastic.
And Owen sold it so
was the
well.
Best.
Just crying to his mom.
Owen made this match. And Bulldog made that match by being passed out for 9 hours.
So for anybody who didn't hear our Owen Hart episode and never saw this match...
Go back, first of all. Great tribute.
Yeah.
To Owen Hart.
For sure.
You know, that we did that to honor him, but this match meant so much.
Owen Hart throws in the towel. Well, no, he doesn't throw in the towel. No. Bulldog was supposed to throw in the towel. He gets his mother and cries, tears.
Well, let's start off where Bulldog was knocked out from probably... It had to be one of the most vicious chair or steel step rammings ever because he hit the steel stairs and was out for 20 minutes.
The night.
Like, he was just done. So I don't know what happened. And then, so he can't throw in the towel, and that was the stipulation.
Yes.
He had to throw in the towel.
Yes.
Do you know, why was that stipulation a thing? Do you know?
It was the sharpshooter versus the crossface.
But why was it the throw in the towel?
I don't remember that part.
Because that's how Bob Backlund lost the title to the Iron Sheik. He was in the camel clutch, and he wasn't giving up, and his manager threw in the towel. So after like 7 years, that's how he lost the title. So it was fancy bringing that back with Bob Backlund. So think about this. Bob frickin' Backlund.
Yes.
Bob Backlund. But this is the good Bob Backlund. Mm-hmm. This isn't smiley Charlie Brown Bob Backlund. This is Bob Backlund's running for president.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
He was great.
Yeah, he was.
He was great at this point. But, yeah, so then, so Bulldog couldn't throw in the towel. So Owen could only throw in the towel for Bob Backlund.
That's right.
So literally Backlund has the chicken wing on Bret for
a while.
8 or 9 minutes. And Owen's on the outside. Their parents are in the crowd, Helen and Stu, and he's crying tears. That's my brother! That's my brother! Mom, help! Blah, blah, blah. And when I say for 10 minutes, like, it's not an exaggeration.
No, it was a long time. And Stu wouldn't let Helen throw in the towel.
Well, I don't think Stu was there. Helen's doing whatever. Stu, you're right. Stu wasn't letting. But then the baby Owen finally convinces Mom.
Yep, and she throws in the towel. New heavyweight champion.
And Owen loses his shit.
Yep.
Goes apeshit crazy.
Was not upset anymore.
Nope.
And was thrilled that Bret lost the title.
Like doing almost backflips.
Because this feud between Owen and Bret that started at the previous Survivor Series was a feud that was going to last until the Hart Foundation reformed in 97.
Yeah.
So that was, 4 or 5 year feud.
And it's still going a year in.
Yeah.
Brett beat Owen at SummerSlam, which shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
I think still Owen should have won that match. Because why... Think about it like that. We're going back. So 2-3 months before, you had Brett versus Owen in the cage. So Brett wins just for him to lose the title to Backlund.
Right.
For a week.
Right.
And then Backlund loses the title to Diesel.
In 7
transition.
seconds.
So why not have Owen be champ for 3 months?
Right.
And then transition it. Right? Like, it didn't make sense. It's a bad booking decision. But this was a great memory.
So maybe it worked out.
So maybe it did, right?
And then we move on to a match that was not as climactic as that. Another 5-on-5 with the $1 Million Team again versus Guts and Glory. And we're seeing Adam Bomb, the Smoking Guns, Lex Luger, and Mabel all on one team. That's a crazy team.
Yeah,
that's so random.
Crazy team. And so that's the heel team. Yeah, no, that's the face team.
That's the face team.
So Mabel didn't turn yet. Okay, Mabel didn't turn yet.
Yeah,
but on the $1 Million Team, you had Bam Bam, Jimmy Del Rey, King Kong Bundy, Tatanka, and Tom Pritchard. So the Heavenly Body.
Yeah,
Meh.
And Cornette and DiBiase were obviously the managers for that.
So it's a good match, but it's sandwiched in between legends. Like that's your I gotta go take a piss match.
Well, it is now, looking back on it, because then you get the Undertaker with Paul Bearer defeating Yokozuna with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji in a casket match, which is the coffin match that we talked about before.
Well, why isn't, first of all, Undertaker defeating Yoko, why didn't he win the title? Was Yoko the champ?
No, we just saw the champ change with Brett and Backlund.
Oh, that's right.
You just talked about it.
I just said that. What an asshole. No, you're right. But it just confused me that why it's not the main event.
Just because it was such a special attraction.
It was a special attraction because that's what the Undertaker was. He was bigger. Yeah. And Yoko was still a big guy, big time here, too.
Taker was bigger than the title. And that's why he was on the poster, and that's why he was the main event. And
because what are we on, 94?
Yeah.
Right? So, was this his first match since Rumble? Didn't he have a casket match in 94?
SummerSlam 94, he faced himself.
Okay, so that was his first match, coming back. Okay. Yeah. Because wasn't Royal Rumble 94 where he ascended out of the casket into the heavens?
Yes.
And so then he probably came back SummerSlam. That's right.
Because DiBiase claimed that he had found the Undertaker and Undertaker was working for him. And that's where we got the fake Undertaker from. Underfaker. Yes. Yep. So then we got Taker versus Taker, another classic. But we're not talking about SummerSlam. We're talking about Thanksgiving traditions and Survivor Series. And that was the last time they did it either on the eve or the day of Thanksgiving. Still always in November, though.
True. So I think we should finish off the 90s, not talking about every card, but obviously we have to talk about 97. Mm-hmm. But, let's just give what happened at least so people can keep up in 95. Nobody really cares about all these matches, right? But the main event in 95 was Bret Hart, Diesel.
And that was a great match.
No disqualification match for the title.
That's one of my favorite Diesel matches.
That's the one that Bret finally won, right? Bret took him out, didn't he?
No, Diesel won that match.
Diesel won that one because Bret beat Diesel.
He did.
For the title. But it wasn't this match. Okay.
No, because if I remember correctly, there was something going on with the Undertaker.
No, Bret Hart defeated Diesel.
He did. So that was the...
It was probably because they wrestled a few times.
So I remember the Undertaker was getting involved in this feud, which was going to lead into WrestleMania 12, Taker and Diesel. So there was something going on.
That was the Rumble.
Yeah.
That was because that was the following.
It was starting there, though. There was something going on because I remember Bret and Diesel, like you said, had the cage match, which was the Rumble, right? And that's where Undertaker pulled Diesel down through the ring. But that had started in late 95.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was Survivor Series, but it was coming into the picture at that point in time. But both of those matches were great.
So that was taking the title for Bret to get to your favorite match, which was way too long to follow WrestleMania.
It is not too long. These marks just have no concept of...
Are you calling me a mark?
Match.
How dare you? Survivor Series 96. Can you remember what the main event of that is? Because I know you're not looking at it.
It was Shawn Michaels versus Psycho Sid.
And who won?
Sid. He hit Jose Lothario with the camera, and Shawn Michaels was upset for his friend.
Look at you. Now you're all fired up.
Because I'm pissed about it.
You are fired up. You are fired up. This guy, he's hot, ladies and gentlemen. He is hot. Okay, we're going to skip 97.
And let it be known, I'm not looking at anything. I just knew that.
No, we're skipping 97. We all know what's coming in 97.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in a second. But now we get to the best era of wrestling, obviously, coming up.
The Attitude Era.
So we're into the Attitude Era in 98 right now. And
now this was a tournament.
All I want to say, yeah, right.
And I'm not looking this up. This was a tournament.
18 matches.
Yes.
So this was a tournament to crown a champion.
Yes, there was no champion. It was vacated.
Why was it vacated? Can you remember? Probably
that
Austin
I can't
being
remember.
hurt.
Something. Yeah,
Austin got hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Austin got hurt a lot, to be fair.
And it was the first time that Survivor Series didn't have one of the elimination matches, but it was still the Survivor Series because it was an elimination tournament.
Right, yeah. Right. And the main event, as you know, is...
It was The Rock. And who the hell was his
opponent? Who was the biggest face at that time other than Austin? It's easy.
It had to be 98?
Yeah. This one's easy, bro.
No.
Mankind.
That was the last... Oh, yeah. Because I said this earlier. They reenacted the year before Screwjob.
Yeah, but that was the thing. It was like Mankind... Well, they were kind of both faces.
Yeah.
At this point.
It was face versus face to start.
To get there.
And what happened was Rock puts Mankind in the sharpshooter.
Well, hold it. Because we just got to call out 99 at the end.
Oh, okay.
Just finish out the 90s so everybody knows what happened. And we're reminding ourselves, too.
Yeah.
And then the main event. Oh, that's right. The main event at the 1999 one. I told you this. This was my bit of trivia. I'll give everyone 10 seconds to try to guess. Who ended the 1900s as WWF champion? They didn't know the answer. Do you know the answer? I told you this the other day. You don't remember?
Nope.
The main event for this match was champion Triple H being defeated by, well, it's the Big Show.
Oh, wow.
So Big Show was the last and the first champion of the 2000s. So I always thought that was interesting.
Very cool. So, well, let's venture back to 97 and 98.
Yeah.
So 97, we get Shawn and Brett again.
Again, 97 and 98, fantastic era.
Oh, for sure.
97's kind of like the beginning, and 98 is just fire.
Well, the build-up to this Survivor Series was insanity.
It was.
Like, there was no way... This may have been the biggest match of the year.
Oh, easily.
Of the year.
Easily. Especially 97.
Yeah.
Main event of WrestleMania was a stinker. Well, not a stinker, but it wasn't.
It wasn't, but this match was what everybody was waiting for.
Because as good as Austin and Bret Hart was at WrestleMania 13, the build-up with Bret and Shawn, the match... a couple pay-per-views before in Calgary Stampede match.
Yep.
Just, you
100%.
can't.
You got the new foundation, the Hart Foundation with all 5 members, Owen, Bulldog, Brett, Neidhart, and Pillman. And you see the formation of DX. You see Brett and Shawn are constantly at each other's throats, but they have other people to deal with before they can get to each other. So you're seeing Stone Cold get brought into the mix. The Undertaker is into the mix. Brett wins the title from The Undertaker because of a chair shot from Shawn Michaels. And the stipulation was, if Shawn wasn't a fair referee, he could not wrestle for the title ever again. And there was like all this whatever. And if Brett lost, he'd never wrestle in the States again. Shawn swings the chair, knocks out Taker, counts to 3 for Brett anyways. Now we're on a build-up to Survivor Series that we don't even know about. Right. Because now Shawn's feuding with The Undertaker. We see the first match at Ground Zero. We see the Hell in a Cell. Brett's feuding with the Patriot. On paper, you're like... That's stupid. Right.
No, it made sense.
Go back and watch it.
Yeah.
The crowd was so hot for the Patriot because they hated Brett. Yes.
Just because America.
Because it was America.
That's it. That's all you needed, Del.
By the time those feuds came to an end and Shawn and Brett were finally coming to each other, it was the hottest thing you'd ever seen. And they were shooting.
Yeah.
They were shooting hard.
And just knowing their legit hatred for each other at this time.
Yeah.
Just... knowing that now, and we didn't know that then. We weren't marks.
No, we didn't know, but somehow, maybe on some level we did, because we were very invested.
Because it came through.
Yeah.
It was honest.
Yeah.
It came through. These guys have basically hated, they've been attached at the hip, Rockers and the Hart Foundation. They're both going for the Intercontinental title at the same time. Brett gets a little ahead of Shawn, and then Shawn's right behind him.
Yep.
Brett wins the Rumble 94. Shawn wins 95, 96.
Yep.
Allegedly 97. No, because thanks to Stone Cold bastard. But like that was their era, right? So they're always attached to the hip. They're always wrestling. They're always fighting. And knowing the stipulations of, I'm sorry, all you Bret Hart marks, of Bret being a bitch and not doing what he's supposed to do. And that's what it is.
That is what you do in this business, and Bret refused to do it.
Yep.
And I don't blame anybody involved in that at all.
Even if you go down to the simple point of it's your job.
Yeah.
It is your job, and I am your boss.
Yeah.
That title, if you want to call it a prop, it is a prop, and you don't own the prop.
Right.
I own it.
Right.
It's my title. It isn't yours.
So if you've lived under a rock or you're not a wrestling fan, we'll tell you what happened. The match ensues. It's a hot match. The crowd is digging it.
It's in Canada.
It's in Canada, Montreal. And Shawn gets the sharpshooter on Bret. Bret's submission hold. And when Bret goes to reverse it, Vince McMahon's down at ringside, gives the signal, the bell rings. Everybody says, whoa, what the hell happened? This match is over all of a sudden. And they say that Bret gave up, which Bret never did. And the match was not supposed to go that way. That was not planned. Shawn pretended he didn't know what was going on, grabbed the title, and took off, and Vince McMahon got a black eye in the locker room.
And one of the best spits ever, apparently, because Bret nailed him with a spit from the ring to the outside.
Yeah.
Perfectly, all in his face. So we just got to give that little backstory, because we went on tirade, we didn't say. Bret was leaving.
Yeah.
Bret was going to WCW. He signed that contract. And yes, there's backstory of Vince signed him to a contract and took it away. But, okay, I get it. Yeah. But the simple fact is he gave you the option to go. He could have said, I'm not honoring this contract. We're gonna redo it.
Yeah.
Or something. He said, you go. Everyone's going to get big money down in Atlanta. If you want to go see what you could do, go for it.
Yes.
And Bret did.
Yeah. And he also said, I don't think they'll know what to do with a guy like Bret Hart. And
boy, was he right.
Yeah.
And so the thing was Bret's champ. They need to get the title off of him because and what made things worse was Alundra Blaze took the women's championship to Nitro
WCW
and threw it in the trash.
And they didn't want to repeat because that makes their
especially
company...
with that big title.
Yes.
The big title.
Exactly.
And people are going to be like, oh, well, in 1991, Ric Flair...
Yeah.
Okay. The difference on that, I guess, is that no offense, Bret Hart's not Ric Flair. And Bret Hart didn't mean what Ric Flair meant to down south.
Right.
And that was Ric Flair's title.
Yes.
Like, that was.
Yeah.
Bret Hart...
And Flair knew he was going back.
Yeah.
Like, this was like a stint. Yeah. Like, he wasn't permanent, and he knew that.
That title was synonymous with Ric Flair, even the design.
Yeah.
Like, that was synonymous with Ric Flair. So, like, I can't compare the two.
No.
Bret Hart doesn't mean what Ric Flair means to WCW and WA. He just doesn't. I'm sorry, Marks. Right. That's Hulk Hogan.
Agreed.
Like, that's who that is. So, Bret refuses. Bret knows he's got to lose the title. His smart way of saying it is like, well, I'm just not going to lose to Shawn, who obviously is going to be Shawn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense.
And he even said, well, I'll drop it the next night on Raw or whatever. Like, Shawn is the guy.
You're out of contract.
Yeah. Whether you like it or not.
Well, I'm not losing to Shawn. Fine, I'll lose it to Shawn. I'm not losing it in Canada.
Right.
When you know that's the next big pay-per-view.
Right.
No, shut up, Bret.
Exactly.
Bret acts like he had nothing to do with it. Like he's an angel and all this.
And just a straight-up victim.
Sure, Shawn is a dick.
Oh, for sure.
But Bret is a dick, too.
But we got one of the best documentaries ever because there just happened to be a camera crew following Bret around for however long, and we got Wrestling with Shadows.
And that's what, like, plays the part of a baby facing Bret. But,
yes.
I mean, it's Bret's a dick.
Yeah.
And you know that now.
Yeah.
You know by his tweets and his books that Bret is a dick, too.
Yeah.
So, I give Shawn Michaels a hard time, but I'm defending him here on this, too. Because what is Shawn Michaels going to do? No, Vince, for the respect of this business... No, fuck him.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Well, if you're Shawn Michaels and you're, what is he at the time, like 33 years old, and you're in your prime, and somebody's telling you, no, you can't be on top of this company because I don't want to lose in my home country.
Yeah, my country.
What if it's not even your hometown?
Yeah.
It's nowhere near Calgary.
Your home province. Yes, they're provinces, I knew that.
Yeah, right.
It's not,
but like, what if Shawn was like, I'll never lose in America? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Like, because Bret's a dick.
Yeah.
Bret's a dick. And that's what it was. And Bret shouldn't have done it. And I'm not even in the wrestling business.
Shawn deserved to be on top at that time.
Well, that was his time.
That feud was hot, and he needed it.
And it needed to transfer because Bret was the bigger star then.
Yeah.
Just because of the heat he had for the Canadian versus Americans.
Yes.
And that was just the idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because arguably, Shawn wasn't even as big as Stone Cold then, at that point. Stone Cold was probably taking it at that point.
I don't know. I feel like it depends.
Dude,
because
did you watch the Canadian Stampede match? Holy
that's
shit.
true, but you got to think of...
When he came back...
You got to think of 97. Shawn was injured for a good chunk of that year.
We're talking about November of 97.
Yeah.
Late November.
I think that's when Shawn took it.
A month and a half from now, Stone Cold's winning the Rumble. And that's it. So it's like, Stone Cold is the man here. Shawn...
But Stone Cold, I consider him a face at this time.
He was at this time.
Shawn was heel. That's why I'm saying you can't.
But they were both... It was a heel versus heel match.
No. Nope.
Well, because it was in Canada.
Stone Cold...
No, I'm talking
you're talking about Shawn.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, it was a heel versus heel match, technically.
Yeah, you're right.
But, like, because of the Give in America, so it was different, right?
Yeah.
And it was such a cool time.
Yeah.
Like, when he had the Canadian flag at his nose.
Which
one country loves him.
Bret was very mad about.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
One country loves him. One country hates him.
Right.
Like, it was so brilliant.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, it centered around those two, but I think the rumor has it that Shawn Michaels, like, bitched out of WrestleMania 13.
That's
that
what
would
they
have
say.
been Michaels and Bret again. Okay.
Yeah.
So if that's true, Shawn Michaels helped create Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I agree.
Just by that.
100%.
Because from that point on, Shawn Michaels wasn't the top dog anymore.
Right.
Stone Cold was.
Yeah.
And if you think about that whole feud of Shawn Michaels being, or Bret Hart being heel, happened at that Mania in late March
Yeah.
and ended 8 months. That was it.
Yeah.
This is it. 8
That's it.
months. It's epic. It's an epic feud.
I agree.
And it was just crazy. And this is the biggest Survivor Series match of all time.
Ever. Everybody
has to
knows
be.
it. Everybody
It has to
knows
be.
it. Yeah.
It just has to be. The only other one, no, it has to be.
Yeah, there is no other one that compares to that. And
Just, no.
even if that wasn't the finish, if it was just the match that was supposed to be, I would still say it's the biggest one because the build-up was just on fucking fire.
Well, there's not even a lot of title changes at Survivor Series.
Well, there's mostly tag team matches.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
For the first 5 or 6 years, but then
Yeah.
they started to, like, always...
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. It's funny because, like, I learned more about this match, when I could internet and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, like...
Reading their books and all that.
I think we're blinded to the simple fact of all the backstage shit now.
Yeah.
Which makes it so compelling.
Yeah.
It really does make it compelling.
does.
And it's like...
And I've read both their books. They both have their stories.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Well, and it's to the point now where everyone's talked about it.
Yep.
And the funniest thing I find is forever, it was always Vince McMahon saying, this was me, this was my idea, I did this, it's nobody else's fault. And now Jim Cornette's like, nope, it was my idea. And Vince Russo's like, no, bro, it was my idea.
Right.
Now everyone's trying to take credit for
Right.
it. Because it's one of the biggest angles ever.
It's actually Triple H's idea.
And he says that too now.
Yeah, but it really was. Like, even Sean told the story that Hunter, they were on a conference call in a hotel room. It was Hunter, Chyna, Sean, and on the other end of the phone was Vince. And Vince was like, well, he's got this contract. There's nothing we could do about it. And I guess Hunter was like, well, there's one thing we can do about it. And it kind of snowballed from there.
But now, because now everyone's taking credit for it, but forever everybody backed off.
Yeah, yeah.
And yes, Brett knocks off Vince and then the camera crew being there. And there's a lot of conspiracy that this was planned. Like, there's conspiracies out there that this was planned.
The whole thing was a work, yeah.
That the whole thing was a work. That's why the camera crews was there. Because Brett's going to go and ruin WCW.
Yeah.
And maybe
he did.
And it's going to start Mr. McMahon, which is the biggest heel of all time.
Yep.
With Austin, the biggest babyface of all time. And The Rock, the other biggest babyface of all time. So, like, maybe. But, I mean, if that's the case, then it is simple. Vince McMahon is the greatest mind in the history of the world. But I think it was a shoot.
What was it, 14 years later when Sean and Brett finally shook hands for the first time on Raw, and that was the first time you see Brett in a WWE ring in how long? Like, that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see those guys bury the hatchet. Brett still bitches about it, but...
Does he? Oh, he bitches?
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Weird.
Oh, my goodness.
But fast forward to 1998, which we talked about. There's the tournament. Rock puts Mankind in the sharpshooter, and they reenact the screw job.
That's just a shot to Brett.
Yes.
And Brett deserved it.
He did.
Oh, he didn't deserve it. He got screwed. But oh, my God.
A lot of fans were like, that's in poor taste. Like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a poor taste of a man that wouldn't do his job.
right.
A job.
Right.
In a country.
If they found out now that somebody wasn't willing to do a job, they'd be all over his ass.
Yeah.
All over him, these fucking marks.
It depends on who it is. Roman Reigns won't do a job? Fuck him. Kill him. Burn him.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes won't do a job? Well.
He shouldn't have to.
Yeah. Let's be fair. I don't think I've seen Cody win many AEW matches.
No, Cody's great.
Yeah. So he's
that
not
wasn't taking a shot at Cody at all. That's just
the marks.
The marks, yeah.
It's taking a shot at the marks.
I'm a huge Cody Rhodes fan.
Yeah. He just lost the title again.
Yeah, to Darby.
Yeah.
Which I didn't see, but I heard was really good.
I didn't see it either, but I don't know. How did we get into AEW? Because AEW fans remind me of Bret Hart fans. AEW reminds me of Bret Hart. The way their fans are.
Yeah.
They talk just like Bret Hart. And they probably think Bret Hart's the greatest wrestler of all time. And I'm not shitting on Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Bret Hart's great.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah.
He's always going to be one of my favorites.
Yeah. But it's just like, it didn't be all and end all. Yeah, Bret wrestled with this chip on his shoulder because he's smaller and he's technical and blah, blah, blah. But Bret was also ripped as shit.
Yeah.
Bret could talk.
Yep.
Like, Bret had everything.
Well, Bret learned how to talk. True. At first, it was rough.
True.
But by the time he was in the Hart Foundation and he was pro-Canada, anti-America, he could talk.
Yeah, like Bret put together everything you needed.
Yes.
At that point.
Yep.
So he wasn't just a technical guy.
Yep.
He wasn't. And especially when he was face, he wasn't a technical guy. He just got his ass whooped.
That no DQ match with Diesel when he was like tying Diesel's feet together and like, that was cool, man.
Yeah, Bret was great. But like, he thought he was the greatest wrestler of all time.
I think his attitude still rubs me the wrong way, but I'll watch his matches any day.
Of course, and what the problem is that Bret Hart happened to be probably the third best professional wrestler at that time.
Yeah.
Behind Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Behind old-ass Ric Flair and young Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was the age gap, too. They're all probably like 10 years away from each other. So.
And so when he's coming up, Ric Flair's the man. He ain't better than Flair in any aspect.
Right.
Okay, he's probably better than Hogan in most aspects. If you're going to talk. Okay, fine. Then you're getting into the next era where maybe he's a better technical wrestler than Shawn Michaels. Great. What is that going to get you? Dean Malenko's a great technical wrestler. Let's put the strap on him. Right? Like, no.
Right.
He just happened to be always second or third best.
Yeah.
That's what he was.
Yeah.
You know, and even with the tag teams, he wasn't they were a pretty dominant tag team.
Oh, yeah, they were dominant.
But they weren't Demolition. They weren't the Road Warriors. So it's just like, you know, he was always second best. And he didn't react well.
You want to talk about the star of the Hart family? It was Owen.
Oh, easily.
Owen was the most athletic. Yep. Owen was the better talker.
Owen was bigger.
Yeah.
Than him.
Oh, if you look back, it probably doesn't seem like it, but at one point, Owen was a jack dude.
94.
94, yeah, exactly.
WrestleMania, Owen looks like a monster.
Yeah,
he's like a monster.
He's a big dude.
If Owen was just a little older, I think that spot would have been his. And maybe they were being too traditional. Like, well, Brett was here first. Like,
maybe.
Okay, cool. That's what.
Maybe.
Because even when Brett became champ in 92, like, I have vague memories. It didn't make sense.
Well, that was a weird period. They were switching from the monstrous guys to the more...
But that's why Ric Flair was your perfect guy.
Right.
Ric Flair's a big dude, too.
We're not even talking about Survivor Series.
I know. We're talking about our Bret Hart memories because this discussion needed to happen. Coming from a Shawn Michaels mark.
Yeah.
And just a wrestling fan, because I'm not a Shawn Michaels mark and I'm not a Bret Hart mark.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like my equal opinion on it is Undertaker's better. And...
Slip that in there real quick.
And... maybe Chris Jericho's better. Shout out to Chris Jericho. What's up, buddy? And
Chris, thank you again for the bubbly.
Oh, I didn't bring it. I bought some bubbly. We're going to have to live drink it on.
Oh, yeah, we were going to talk
I got it. We'll do it on the next
thing.
But obviously you can't have Survivor Series without that talk. And Survivor Series didn't, I guess it meant a little bit since then.
Yeah.
The only Survivor Series match in the past 20 years I can remember that got me anything like excited or invested, especially the past 5 years. If you guys don't know, there's the two shows, they're split, and every Survivor Series is, you know, Intercontinental Champ versus US Champ, SmackDown Champ versus Raw Champ. So it's pretty cool. And they do a good job splitting. 4 years ago or so, Brock Lesnar's champ, Daniel Bryan's champ. That match, I have been a Daniel Bryan hater forever. That was the first match that I watched Daniel Bryan that sucked me in to the point where I'm like, oh my God, he's going to beat Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
He took an ass whooping for the first minute and a half. And then, boom, nut shot, Daniel Bryan takes over. And kudos to Brock.
Very well done.
Nobody gives love to either.
Yeah.
Just took over that, you know what I mean, match, and took the ass whooping from Daniel Bryan, but it, for some reason, was believable. I don't know why.
It really was. And I thought the same thing. And here's a team that will always stand out to me from Survivor Series. In the later years, it was DX, as in Triple H and Shawn Michaels, the Hardy Boys, and CM Punk.
Oh, Jesus.
And that's a team. Like 08? You know, I couldn't even tell you.
Gotta be.
Just that team stands out in my mind.
07, maybe. It's when DX got back together.
And whenever ECW came around, because Punk was still part of the new ECW. And all five of those guys survived.
How's his UFC career go?
So thank you for joining us.
I'm a CM Punk hater, too. No, not him. His fans.
His fans,
Those are, I guarantee you, all those crazy CM Punk fans are Bret Hart fans.
What happened to the internet is that wrestling fans now have access to backstage information and insider terms, so now they know everything. So that's what happened. And probably me saying that is going to make us lose some of those listeners who are those fans. And if that's you, go away.
Yeah. Or just learn to like the product, like what you like, and just don't follow the trend.
It was different for us when we were younger, too. We didn't have access to that. So you just watched to see what was going to happen. You didn't go online and go, oh, well, Undertaker was going to win this match, but somebody bitched. Like, you didn't have, just watch it. And enjoy it and see where it goes.
Wrestling is really good right now.
It is.
Raw's been fantastic.
WWE's good right now.
NXT's great.
I
love what they're doing with Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
That's great. I just love him being there. He's not wrestling. He's just being a mouth. He's such an asshole.
And for you AEW fans, Penta versus Rey Fenix a few weeks ago on Dynamite was so good.
Yeah, I've watched AEW a little bit. I don't get a lot of chance to watch the Wednesday night shows because I work. But I'll watch the NXT pay-per-view, so I kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
But, SmackDown's pretty good too right now.
Yeah.
But Raw has taken a leap.
I'd like to shout out Mustafa Ali for being a great heel.
Just their names kill me, but the Retribution's their name kills me.
Yeah,
but
same.
And then the Hurt Business, they're an awesome team.
Yep.
Raw's got it going on right now.
Agreed.
They really do. And this whole thing, I mentioned it earlier, you got going on, Randy Orton's a champ. Drew McIntyre's after him. The Miz is after the title with the Money in the Bank. Drew's not having that. So Drew's after the Miz. And then all in the background is this faint figure of the Fiend just floating over them all. Like, it's so good and it's so brilliant right now.
Yeah.
And big shout out to my girl, Alexa Bliss.
Oh, she's killing it.
She is just...
What a character.
She is awesome.
Well, I think on that's a good note to end on, because now we're getting into what's coming for Survivor Series this year.
I also want to shout out to a guest you had a couple weeks ago who predicted Randy Orton winning the title from Drew McIntyre. Who was that?
I don't remember.
Okay, yeah. No, of course you don't. So, shout out to me for that prediction on that one.
And I was the one that said it wasn't happening.
You're wrong.
I was wrong. I was wrong. And it's recorded, so I can't even deny it.
Edit her out. Let's go.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. This was mostly a Survivor Series discussion.
Don't you want to talk about turkey real quick? What do you do for Thanksgiving? What's your tradition?
You know, the last few years, it all changes.
Yeah?
So
well, that's what happens.
I don't do the same things anymore.
Do you watch the parades? Did you watch the parades?
No.
I did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I watched parades a little bit just to the end because I wanted to see Santa. Because I knew when I saw Santa, I could start making my Christmas list.
There you go.
And go through the catalog.
Still do that?
That is none of your business. And I go through the catalog. There was this thing called Toys R Us, and they had catalog, and I would circle what I wanted, and it usually was like Hasbro. WWF figure, Hasbro WWF figure. And now what I do, since I'm chef now, is I make 3 different turkeys for Thanksgiving. I smoke one, I deep fry one, and I bake one, and the best is deep fried, I'm just saying.
And you just feed everyone.
I feed everyone. So we have a big feast, and that's what Thanksgiving is. Hang out with your family.
Yeah, I see which family member is doing what, and then I just kind of...
Who makes the best food, so you'll be at my Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here again.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, y'all.
Yeah, so we will see you guys.
Watch some old Survivor Series, everybody.
Oh my God, yeah.
Do it. It's fun.
Watch the Thanksgiving tradition years.
Yeah. They're fun. They're fun. Even watching those old ones with those wrestlers, like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah. And they're not long, so they're not going to take up your whole day. You know, football and wrestling.
That's Thanksgiving and food.
Or at least it was. All right. We will catch you next time on the All Bets Are Off podcast. Thanks for hanging out. It was a long one, and we hope you stuck it out with us to the end.
That's what she said.
See you next time.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the GERE Network.